I'm also starting our YouTube live stream. These are public hearings, so we stream them live to YouTube. So anyone from the public that's interested in observing can do that. Last thing I need to do is read through our hearing script. This will just cover the procedure for the hearing, and then we'll jump right into it. So this is the May 25th, 2022 session of the Zoning Hearing Examiner docket. My name is David Sturkey. I'm the Zoning Hearing Examiner for the City of Cincinnati, and I'll preside over this hearing. The case before us today is case number ZHUV220004. The purpose of this hearing is to allow applicants and opposing parties to testify and to offer and refute evidence and testimony. This hearing will follow the rules found in the zoning code and the supplemental rules of the Zoning Hearing Examiner. All testimony and evidence that an applicant or any opposing party wishes to offer must be presented at this hearing. The hearing will proceed as follows. The applicant, the applicant's attorney, or the applicant's agent will first present the applicant's case. If there were anyone here from the public, they would have an opportunity to speak after the applicant has presented his case. I'll give the zoning plans examiner, Wes Menzel, an opportunity to provide any testimony. In the event any party testifies or offers argument in opposition to this application, the applicant will have an opportunity to rebut that testimony and or argument offered in opposition. And then finally, the applicant will have an opportunity to make any closing statements. For our purposes here today, folks, I'll give the gentleman from C and B, and then the two gentlemen from the school an opportunity to tell me about the project, any background, anything you think is important for me to know to make my decision. And then, of course, why you think it's appropriate, the zoning relief is appropriate, and why I should grant it. I let you all orient that however you'd like. It can be one of you, it can be all of you. Really in any order you think is best for me to get the information. I'll then go and give Wes an opportunity to provide any testimony, go back to you guys, give you an opportunity to respond to anything Wes has said, and then to make any closing remarks. After all presentations have been made, I will close the hearing. Decisions may be expected within 2 weeks. I may limit or exclude any testimony that I deem irrelevant or outside the scope of the application being considered. I may interrupt any speaker to ask questions or make any comments. I may also refuse to consider hearsay testimony or documents. That's generally evidence you want to introduce consistent statements made by someone who's not present here today. In the event of any technical difficulties with the Zoom, I'll do my best to troubleshoot those issues on the fly. But if there's some defect that prevents us from meaningfully going forward with this hearing, I may continue or postpone the hearing at my discretion. Okay. Now I just need to swear in all of our witnesses. If you intend on providing any testimony here today, making any comments, asking any questions, really just doing anything other than just strictly observing, then you need to be sworn in under the code. So if you're not certain whether you're going to testify, I can swear you in later. But if you know you'd like to say something, I'm going to swear everyone in now. So if you could just take yourself off mute, I need everyone to answer out loud and to raise their right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Yes.
I need the just oral answers on that.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Thanks, everyone. Okay. All right. Who's going to be taking the lead here on the presentation?
I'd be happy to sort of start things off.
Sure. Floor is yours.
My name is Mitchell Powell. I'm with C&B Sign Services. We are the sign contractor that would be installing this sign. At the Guardian Angels Catholic Church, there currently exists a sign with a manual reader board so that customized messages can be put on. This would currently be a manual sign with manual letters that are put on and off, depending on whatever it is, if there's an event or whatever the church is trying to communicate. Guardian Angels has both a church and a school on the grounds. And so there's a lot of things they like to communicate, especially about events that they have. So in this case, what we're asking is to replace the manual reader board with an electronic reader board that can be programmed. So the basic function is the same, but it gives you some more flexibility with displaying messages. There's also along the top of the sign, an area where we would be putting in the church's new logo. This wouldn't increase the square footage of the sign, and it's shown in the artwork we've submitted. But that's my understanding is that's not an issue variance-wise. It's just the electronic message center. Looking over the way the site is laid out, This church is across the street from McNick High School, which also already has an electronic message center. They're the closest residential properties are off to the southeast a bit, behind a woods. So there's no one who would, for example, be seeing this sign at night or having any trouble with that in their residences. And so we think that this will be a good way for the church and school to communicate with the world, and we don't believe it'll disrupt anything. And it's going to be at the location of the currently existing sign.
Gotcha. Okay. As I'm sort of looking at the site map or the outline, I don't know if you guys have access to the staff report. That's sort of what I'm looking at now, but page 2 has sort of a red outline of the property. Can you see that?
I do have it open.
Got a site map in front of me here. Yes.
Yeah. Where exactly? I mean, are those residences to the northwest of the property there, up near that corner?
On the corner is
If you could just give
a dentist
sorry.
office.
Got it.
There are a couple of residences, but because of the turn there and where the sign will be between the large building, which is the church, and then there's the school runs down to our gym, so that little U-shaped area, and that the sign sits up inside there.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
those residents would not have sight line to the sign at all. And even the dentist there in the corner of Brockman in Beechmont.
Got it. Okay. And you said that you're not expanding the square footage at all. Is that right?
That's correct. The square footage of the proposed sign matches the square footage of the existing sign.
Gotcha. Okay.
The shape is the same as well. It's taking up the exact same space.
Got it. Okay. I think that's all the questions I have right now. Anything else from CMB or Guardian Angels?
The only thing I think I would add is that we currently are a school of 470 students with 300 plus families, a parish of 1,900 families, and we serve a community through various parish service organizations throughout Mount Washington. So there are many and various functions that we would like to communicate, because not everyone comes to our website, not everyone is on our email list, but there are many things specifically that we do within the community that we'd like to know. Our St. Vincent de Paul, which is our largest parish service organization, probably serves 200 or 300 families a month. And, we offer relief in many different ways, from food and paying utilities and that kind of thing. So, we want to be able to, as effectively as possible, make sure that those kind of missions are available to our community.
Got it. And to Guardian Angels, did you, in the staff report, see the recommendation from Mr. Menzel that any approval be conditioned on some auto dimming software being installed and hours of operation?
I did.
Do you have any response to that or comment on that?
I think the hours of operation, we'd like to have them expanded, because, 7 to 8 there's traffic and whatnot, it's coming through here all the time. And with the auto dimming, we're not sure that it would cause any more problem at 10 o'clock at night than it would cause, on a rainy Thursday afternoon. Just like McNick across the street, as far as we can tell, theirs is on 24/7. So we would like to expand the hours of operation.
Gotcha. Okay.
I'd be happy to speak to the auto dimming real quick, if that's possible.
Sure.
This sign is manufactured by Next LED, what we're proposing to put in. And one of the things that we always want to avoid with a sign like this is emitting the same amount of light during the day as at night, just because as the ambient light goes down at night, a sign that's lit appropriately for the day would become a sort of a hazard to drivers at night because it's very difficult to read. And so this sign does come with auto dimming technology. If there were ever a concern about it being too bright or not bright enough, we can easily change whatever the level of brightness is if the city or if someone in the neighborhood were to have a concern. When it comes to display at night, we do think it's relevant that there aren't residences that have a clear line of sight to it. And so we're not worried that someone is going to be up, say, trying to go to bed and, seeing light from it.
Gotcha. Okay. So you don't think the auto dimming condition will be an issue at all?
I don't believe so, no. And the church does have, for example, on weekend masses or sometimes in the evening, and there are occasionally events that'll go after 7 p.m. And so for, telling people where to park and that sort of thing, it would be helpful if they could extend beyond those recommended hours.
Gotcha. Okay. Wes, anything you'd like to provide?
Yeah. I still think there needs to be a cutoff on the hours, because I think McNick has theirs turned off at night. Like, 'cause I live in the area and I drive by there a lot, so I see it turned off. I am hopeful that the light dimming, actually, there is a distinction between daylight and nighttime, because sometimes you drive by these signs and they're like, you don't want to look at them because they're too bright. So I would suggest that definitely be evaluated constantly, or occasionally, to make sure that it's not a hazard. We did do a sign recently for Mount Washington Elementary where there was a limit on the hours. I disagree with the residential house to the northwest along Beechmont. I'm just looking at the aerial map, and your sign is very close to the sidewalk, so it is visible from down the street. From that house, I believe it's visible from the street, or from that house.
Talking about here, Wes?
Yeah, that house. Yeah.
Here, and then the sign's approximately here, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Is it from GA? Is it just that this nodule sort of?
I think if you were to go stand at the sign and look towards that house, you would see the house. Like, it's that behind that line of trees, it's visible. Like,
Going the right way.
the other way. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to say without being on site, I think. But it does look like it's possible.
Yeah, the sign is a lot closer to the street than the church wing that's to the right there. It's
Yeah. Okay.
And just a reminder on the messaging that's on there eventually. There's no scrolling, no flashing. Like, that has to be just a static sign for 10 seconds. So that's more to the GA management. So just be aware of that. To be perfectly honest, in my opinion, these signs aren't really that effective. You can't read them. You're driving, like, they're either too bright or it's scrolling. You can't read it when you're driving if it's scrolling. So just kind of my own little sidebar there, but that's but I do think it's visible. I do think there needs to be a limit on the sign operations. McNick has strict limits on their football stadium lights, and they follow them. Like, they're supposed to be turned off at 10. I'm not sure what exactly the hours on their signage is, but it does seem like it's off at, in the evening hours when I drive by there.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Wes. I appreciate your testimony and your work on the staff report. I'll give GA and CMB an opportunity to respond to anything Wes has said, and then make any closing statements here.
Father King?
For what it's worth, I've never seen McNick sign turned off.
And he
So I
he lives
think
across the street.
24/7, I go up and down the street, different hours. I've never seen it turned off, unless there's a problem with it, but yeah.
Yeah, I wonder, Wes, I mean, they must have gotten some zoning approval for that at some point. Do you know whether there was a particular case or case number attached to that?
I don't, I think it might have been like right before they reestablished the zoning department. So I don't know exactly, how scrupulous the review was at that time. But I could check into that a little bit if you want.
No, I mean, it'd be helpful, but I intend to check on it myself.
Okay.
Well, I mean, it's one thing, Father King, for them to not turn it off, and it's another thing for them to, not be required to turn it off. Hopefully that made sense. And I would like to be consistent. And then, in terms of enforcement, that's a different story, a little bit outside of my purview. But anything else from GA or CMB before we adjourn here today?
We happily agree with the idea that you can't have scrolling and flashing and too many. That's absolutely, we agree with that.
Sure. Okay. Great. Well, let's leave it at that. I'm gonna approve the application. I am going to require the auto dimming condition be attached. I'd like to spend a little bit, and as Wes mentioned, the flashing, the intensity, all that stuff is required by code that I can't really mess with that. The hours of operation, let me take a look. I'd like to see if there is a case that actually authorized the McNick sign to run 24/7. I think that'll have an impact on the condition that I place on GA. Just to be clear, you are asking for 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. or are you asking that there be no restriction at all?
We'll take as many hours of operation as you allow.
Got it. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, let me just take a little bit closer look at that. I'm may do a site visit here as well. Just sort of a slow drive by just to check out that line of sight with that residence as well. I mean, it's pretty far away. I don't think it's a huge concern, but it may be helpful for me to just be on the ground for this one. And so let me just take a closer look at that. But the sign will be approved. Hopefully that gives you guys some assurance to start to move forward in some ways on this project. I just the hours, something I'll take a look at, because I have in other places I have limited the hours of use on these LED messaging signs. So there will be some limitation, but let me just take a closer look and do a little bit more research so that I'm being fair across the board for you guys. Other than that, as soon as I formalize this decision in an actual written opinion, GA, I know you guys have been through this. I'll send you an email that has a PDF attached that will be a copy of that decision. I'll send it to everybody who's in the email here today. And so you all have a copy of it really just moments after it's complete. As soon as you have that, Wes can okay the permitting, and you guys can get started. And the decision will include, in detail what the conditions of the approval are. If you guys have any questions in the meantime, feel free to reach out to me directly, or if you just want a status update on where I'm at with the decision, reach out to me directly. I'm happy to give you guys that. And yeah, unless there's any other questions right now, I think that's it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you all. Good luck with the project. Have a wonderful day. We are adjourned.
Good.
Thank you.